little piece of advice for any music reviewers that want to become music reviewers one day. Don't judge an album by the first listen. What is up, everybody? My name is Justin French, covering music for those who care, and right now I'm taking a look at the 7th studio album from Fall Out Boy. This one is entitled Mania. So anyways, for those of you who don't know who Fall Out Boy is, Fall Out Boy were originally a pop-punk band from Illinois who started out with albums such as Take This to Your Grave, and then got mainstream exposure with albums such as From Under the Cork Tree and Infinity on High, with singles such as Sugar We're Going Down, Dance Dance, It's Not a Scene, This Ain't a Scene, It's an Arms Race, and even Thanks for the Memories, one of my favorite childhood songs. And then we got Fully Ado back in 2008, and a lot of people don't really seem to be talking about this album very much. I kind of find it to be a very underrated album from Fall Out Boy's discography. Heck, in my opinion, it's their last good record. And then Fall Out Boy took a hiatus in 2009, but reformed back in 2013 and released the album Save Rock and Roll, which, if someone told me that the title was a joke, I'm not gonna lie, I tell you you're absolutely right, because, well, Fall Out Boy, where was the rock and roll part of the album besides the last 2 tracks at least? And then we got American Beauty, American Psycho, which was okay. It did have good singles such as Centuries, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the Monsters sample on the track Uma Thurman, and Irresistible, which featured Demi Lovato in later versions of the track. And I also enjoyed the promotional single The Kids Aren't Alright, which I kind of thought was going to be an Offspring cover from back in the day. Speaking of which, I'm still waiting for a new Offspring record. Like I haven't had enough of waiting for a new Tool record. I'm still waiting for a new Offspring record. This album was supposed to be released back in September, I believe September 15th, whenever Foo Fighters and Nothing More had new albums coming out. But the band pushed it back to January, which is today, the 19th, due to the band being dissatisfied with the sound of the record. So they kind of went back and made some adjustments, and anyways, let's get into my opinion as to if the changes were good or bad. So the first single we got off this thing was Young and Menace, which came back out in April whenever this album was being announced. And I don't think it was a good single to be released. I don't think Fall Out Boy can really pull out EDM very well. And the sound of it is just very monotonous. And then whenever I was thinking about that, I was like, okay, it's only the first song that we're getting from this band. I know Fall Out Boy are capable of more than this. Hopefully the next song they release is going to be better than this. Well, I'll tell you one thing. It definitely did get a bit better with Champion, which was co-written by Sia. And Sia is an artist that I really enjoy in the pop scene, especially nowadays. However, I don't feel that the band was really bringing something unique to the table. I feel like this is just as bland as most of their pop stuff is nowadays. I feel like this is just Fall Out Boy being Fall Out Boy in 2013 or 2015, around the time that American Beauty or Save Rock and Roll was coming out. So yeah, I was kind of anxious to see where this band was headed with its sound. And then we got the third single, which was The Last of the Real Ones, and I actually feel like there was real instrumentation on this track. I actually enjoyed what the band members were doing on this song, and I think Patrick Stump does a pretty good vocal delivery on this record as a whole. And then we got Hold Me Tight or Not, which I first heard on the top 40 stations, and I have to say that the first thing I heard from the chorus was it made me want to do the Macarena, because, me tight or not, I mean, it's like you're telling me that Taylor Swift ripped off I'm Too Sexy. What? She did? But anyways, it was an okay track. It's not something that's a big highlight of this album, but I mean, it's an okay track. I'd put it as maybe a recommended track. And then we got Wilson, Expensive Mistakes, which I didn't really enjoy as first. I kind of thought it was just as generic as Champion was, and then I kind of listened to the lyrics on that thing, and I actually enjoyed that track a little bit, especially in that chorus line whenever he's singing, "I'll stop wearing black whenever there's a darker color." I kind of actually enjoy that line a little bit. So, but anyways, what did I think about the rest of the album? Well, let me put it to you this way. At first, I didn't think it was good. As you saw at the beginning of the video, that was my overall rating the first time I heard this track, which I think is completely unbiased of me because I don't think I gave this album another chance. So I gave it a couple more listens before I even started scripting and writing and doing this review. But overall, I do feel that this album, yes, it's very disjointed, but I mean, there are some good elements in this album. I'm not going to say it's a bad record, but I do feel it's one of Fall Out Boy's weakest, especially since their 2013 comeback. Like, I'm going to say this right now, on the CD edition, the order is very different from the digital release, because the digital was going with whatever song was coming out first, pretty much. While this one kind of mixed up all of the songs. So, Stay Frosty, Royal Milk was the first track, and then we got Last of the Real Ones, Hold Me Tight or Not, Wilson, Expensive Mistakes, Church, Heaven's Gate, Champion, Sunshine, Riptide, featuring Burna Boy, Young and Menace, and Bishop's Knife Trick. And I have to say this, I think the first half of this record is very stronger than the second half, because out of the second half, there's only like one good song that I actually enjoy, and that's the closing track, Bishop's Knife Trick, and it feels very different from what Fall Out Boy have done in the past. Also, this is the only song on the record that is over 4 minutes long, so it's pretty much the longest track that is on the record. And the only one that I see that hasn't changed its position from its digital release. Stay Frosty Royal Milk Tea. At first, I didn't enjoy it because of the beat on it, and it does feel a bit weird, especially to hear Fall Out Boy in this kind of day and age doing EDM. But I mean, I feel like this would have been a better example of Fall Out Boy's first single instead of Young and Menace, because Young and Menace was just very monotonous and really felt weird, in my opinion. Last of the Real Ones kind of has that same pop rock feel that Fall Out Boy has been doing over the past few years, but the difference between that one and Champion is Champion just feels like a complete generic pop rock song, pretty much. It just doesn't really have much soul in it. I feel like Last of the Real Ones kind of had Fall Out Boy doing Fall Out Boy from pretty much anything in 2013, but giving it a bit more effort. I really enjoyed the track Church, which is probably my recommended track on this album, just because I really enjoyed the bass line on it. And Stump actually has some really unique soulish vocals on this track, which I really enjoyed on this track. And then we got Heaven's Gate, which was the follow-up to that track, and I feel like it's just more of a slower kind of sequel song to that one, and I just felt like it was kind of boring, in my opinion. And then we had Sunshine Riptide featuring Burna Boy, which, number one, I don't understand what was his input in this track. I don't know why they had to include him in this. And two, I feel like this is definitely one of the weaker tracks, along with Young and Menace, just because I don't think Burna Boy was meant to be on this track, and I don't feel like the instrumentation on this track is very good, especially for trying to be a poppy EDM kind of track. Overall, this album, like I said with my Of Mice and Men album review, this album is going to split fans, because you have some of those fans that have stuck around with this band since the pop-punk scene days, and then you have the fans that have been around since 2013, say rock and roll pretty much, with the more popular approach. I feel like if the fans have been listening since Take This to Your Grave and want something more pop-punkish, something to kind of go back to their roots, I don't think that this album is going to please you at all, especially for a fan that has listened to them for a long time, including me. I don't think that this is one of their strongest albums to date. Matter of fact, I think this is, in my opinion, probably their weakest. I mean, it has some good songs, but the sound overall is just very, very misjointed. And then you have some of the pop fans that might enjoy this, along with maybe some fans that like Panic at the Disco. You might enjoy this record. Me, overall, I'm not too big on it. There are some songs I might be coming back to. Church and Stay Frosty, Royal Milk Tea, and Last of the Real Ones, I think, are probably some of the standout tracks on this album. But overall, it's okay. It's weak, especially for a Fall Out Boy release. So anyways, I think my rating on this is most likely going to be a 4 out of 10. So anyways, thank you all for watching this video. If you would like to subscribe to my channel, you can click right over here to catch up on more content or watch another video. If you want to see the last video I did, you can click right over here to catch up on that. So anyways, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed and hope to see you soon.